I'm still in the last week there. Well, we're going to get This is my for chicken square. So I think it's some kind of cow. That's crazy. One card. That's yeah. Sorry, I want to get to the. It's fine. You got a Dropbox here. Dropbox from your sense. Yeah, you say no run is no. Please stand for the pledge of allegiance. Pledge of allegiance to the flag. United States of America. Moment of silence in memory of the deceased members of the fire district. Special workshop meeting on fire commissioners, narrowly to discuss two apparatus issues. One being some surprises that you're involved in rescue board 2, there's rehab, and then truck board 2. There's not a printed agenda, but those are the 2 items on the agenda. What's all? Yeah, Bob. Richard here. Dan here. Brian here. John here. Before we get into the meeting, if anybody has any public comments related to those 2 apparatus issues, I'll entertain them now. Okay, having none, I'm going to turn it over to Commissioner Miller. If you can please give an overview of where we're at with Rescue Board 2 and what was discovered. When you're done with that, I'm going to ask Commissioner French to go over the various options that the board has to consider.
About 3 weeks ago, one of the guys on a refurb committee, along with Chief Wilson, were over looking at the truck, and they called me and said, "Hey, you think you need to go over and take a look at the truck?" I went over and met with Jeff Riccio, service manager, showed me what the issue was on the truck is outfitted with a dual frame, double frame. And on the outer frame rail, right almost dead center over the rear axle, on the upper radius, there's probably about 10 to 12 inches just gone, right away. The whole frame rail, it's down into the inner frame. I can't tell, we can't really tell if it's affected that. So that's, you cannot replace a frame, you cannot repair a frame in the state of New York or federal DOT. It's against the law. You can't patch it, you can't. You basically, the only thing you can do is replace the whole rail. Sad part was they're probably 80% into the budget, I think, of where we have allocated for the update. Question rose, why did they wait so long to uncover it? They basically were getting to the point where we're getting to the end and they were descaling the frame so they could undercoat it. That's where they found that. They brought in 3 different frame people. As Rich will go through later in a little while. 2 of them were pretty close to each other. And the third was significantly less. So that's the discussion for as we move on. But other than that, I believe, Dan, the body and all the
Yeah, so
gone very well.
yeah, I mean, what they said was basically above the actual body, the frame body for rails was good. The body's still in good shape. They've already done a lot of the work to it. It's basically was just frames down was the major issue. The component was bad. You know, it's but
Yeah, the body's aluminum and the frame rail steel.
if you went over, like maybe looked at it, saw the pictures of it, it looks basically like burnt toast and just fell off the rails, and it's to a point where it's not safe to drive, and it costs a lot to fix it.
And we can take it back and drive it, but it got pulled on the DOT, which we probably never would. But if we had an accident or something, we'd be swinging in threes, you know. So probably not the route or choice we want to take on that.
Thanks, Bob. And Rich, you want to go over the various options?
Yeah, I was asked to come up with some kind of consolidation of options. And we really only identified a couple options at the last commissioners meeting. So I solicited a piece of the commissioners to send me your options. And, got some submitted. I brainstormed a bunch. I've come up with, there were a lot of options that were very similar to each other, virtually identical. So I consolidated them. I came up with 6 viable options. Personally, there's a couple of them that I would do, but I think we needed to document all of the options. Because the whole purpose of it's a repair or replacement analysis, alternatives analysis. And I think it shows the board is doing due diligence and looking at all the available options. And it shows somebody on the fiscal end that would show somebody from the public that if they wanted to ask, what are you spending money on? We're doing due diligence on this. We're going to try and look at absolutely every option that can be done. So I'll just go through them. There's probably going to be some that, and this is directly to the board members. There's going to be some that you like and dislike. We can talk about them afterwards. And we should talk about them afterwards. And I'm going to hold my comments till afterwards too. But option 1 was one of the ones we talked about at Monday's meeting, and that's replace the frame rails. A couple of the key steps that would have, basically 2 key steps that make that project happen. Continue the ongoing rehab and integrate frame rail replacement in the project, as was discussed. 3 vendors that were identified. I talked to a vendor that the district has worked with previously on projects. Never anything of this magnitude, and he wouldn't touch anything of this magnitude. But as soon as I mentioned frame replacement to him, his first comment to me was, there's only one place in the greater capital district that I trust to do that. And he listed off one of the companies that we have a quote from. And he told me that it happens to be the company that we have the lowest quote from, which made me feel even better. It's the one in Johnstown, or out in Mohawk Valley. I can't remember the name off the top of my head now. So that's the two steps to it. Advantages, I'll give you the advantages I came up with and others came up with, that submitted stuff to me. Advantage, no negative disruption to the existing apparatus replacement plan. We can continue with the apparatus replacement plan as scheduled. Potential additional years of service life for Rescue 4.2. It's the whole idea of doing it. Relatively short duration of out of service time. When we talked to them earlier, a week or two ago, they were talking about being able to get it done by September, August, September timeframe, which that's relatively short out of apparatus repair time. 4, and let's keep this one in the room. Premier, Premier, which is the company doing rehab, will likely be willing to work with extra hard on any additional work that may have to be required, as they have at least a partial responsibility for failing to find any frame problems when they provided the original quote. These folks looked at the truck, they talked to us about the truck, they had the truck for a month and a half, and then they found the problem. There's some culpability there, and I think they know that. So, I'm not saying that we go after them for it, but if there's extra work that's found needs to be done, we get them to at least pick up the burden on that. Disadvantages, it's an unplanned project cost and cash outlay. It's money we didn't intend to spend right now. Disadvantage 2, what else will be found when they take out the existing frame? We don't know. A lot of things attached to the frame. And they're, we start talking about, we gotta take the fuel tank out. Well, are we gonna put the old fuel tank straps back in, or we gonna replace the fuel tank straps? The fuel tank is 20 years old. Maybe we can replace that too. And these added things become escalators. We would have to watch out for. And the disadvantage 3 ties right back to those two things, potentially spending more than the originally quoted $68,000. And that's what the quote was to drop in the 2 frame range, 68 grand. Next, option 2. The one we talked.
There's one question. What's the life, if we do know that, what's the life expectancy?
The life expectancy of the frame, they're warrantying that frame for life.
I meant that we would have the truck in service. Like,
I don't know that it could be, I don't know that that should be, if the plan is to get it beyond what its original date was in the apparatus replacement plan, which I believe was,
like 2033.
21,
33.
33, is what we're trying to get to. Yeah, I think we could do that. I think we could.
Yeah, I mean, that's feasible, but expecting something longer.
Yeah,
That's what I was asking.
Yeah, it's just,
that's a wing and a prayer. But it would allow us to do the committees that would be designed to play that trucks on the right scale. Option 2, we talked about at the last commissioners meeting, and at the time, it sounded like a pretty good idea until we started talking to vendors. Option 2 was a cabin chassis replacement. What in the old days, the manufacturers called it glider kit. Basic steps on that, continue an ongoing rehab. Step 2 would be to locate, procure, and integrate a suitable replacement cabin chassis and mount the existing pump, tank, and body onto a new frame. Advantages, new cabin chassis. 2, re-rates the apparatus in the new model year. So if we were to get a 2026 or 2027 frame, the truck would come back as a 2026 or 2027 rescue truck, which is an advantage for us. It's also an advantage when we go to sell it. And again, that same advantage with Premier probably being willing to work with us extra hard on any extras because of their failure of finding problems. Disadvantages, locating and procuring a suitable frame. Vendors I talked to, one vendor I talked to flat out said that at a meeting with their engineers, as within the last 2 months, this came up as an idea that they should start branching into this market, and the engineer said no. Their current, the way they interpret the current DOT and EPA regs, it just can't be done. It's not like the old days when you jacked up a body and dropped it on a new frame rail, dropped it on a new frame. Additionally, with cost of bodies and the work that has to be done on the bodies, the only common, or this is from another vendor I talked to last week, the only common apparatus that you see being dropped, we're doing glider kits, being dropped on a new frame are the, our rough trucks. Because they're unique design, they can usually just be unbolted, dropped onto a new pickup frame, a new truck frame. The big stainless steel elliptical tankers, because the big stainless steel elliptical tankers, nothing bad ever happens to it unless you're wrecked. And you can take a 20 or 25-year-old elliptical tanker, unbolt it, put it on another frame, and it's a brand new truck. And ambulances, and that kind of surprised me because, and the reason that is usually ambulances that have huge distances to hospitals, because they rack up a tremendous amount of mileage and with limited use. So that's what they, about all there's one glider kits on. Yeah, I'm sorry. On that, when I'm talking about the glider kit, I'm talking about fleet, cab, and chassis. So it'd be the only thing, picture above the wheel wells, the wheel wells up, coming off, and bolting that on new cab and chassis. So that's what the industry for years called a glider kit. Glider kits were very popular, at least it was a popular option back in the 70s, because a lot of fire departments thought they could save a lot of money that way. You don't hear about them anymore, primarily because nobody can save any money doing it. The other reason is that it's very often difficult to match up, well, to use Rescue 4.2 as an example. You can't just plug and play the wiring and the plumbing and everything else that's in Rescue 4.2 on the chassis. Chances are it would have to be completely rewired to go into a new chassis wiring system. This is the information coming from vendors. Re-rates the model year. Oh, I'm sorry. Cost of the chassis and disruption to the long range plan. At estimates on a new chassis for as much as $450,000. Right, so that's a big chunk of change, and that's just having a chassis delivered to Premier or wherever it was going to be done. That's not bolting it up, mounting it, making all the connections, any paint work that has to be done, anything along those lines. Another disadvantage, I kind of hinted this before, engineering and associated costs with any mend-togethers for a 20-plus-year-old frame, pump, and electrical system to a new chassis. Last disadvantage I have was the operational aspects of an extended time period with one piece of apparatus missing from the fleet. Two of the vendors that I talked to said that they could probably get chassis for it, but the chassis would be at least 18 to 24 months out. One of them said it would be in excess of 24. The other one said 18 to 24. So it will take a long time just to get a chassis if that was what we're going to consider option 2. Option 3 doesn't sit well with me, but I put it there because we have to look at every option. Abandon the Rescue 4.2 rehab. Do nothing. Stop all the work. Cut the losses by negotiating with Premier what's been done. Pay them for it and walk away from it. Run truck 4.2 and 4.27 out of station 4.2 until Rescue 4.2 is due for replacement, and then carry the rescue equipment on utility 4.2 in the meantime. Advantages: minimal additional costs, minimal disruption to the existing long-range plan. Disadvantage: the operational aspects of an extended time period with one piece of apparatus missing from the fleet. And then the other disadvantage: the abandonment of monies spent on Rescue 4.2 rehab that would not be completed. Option 4 is
I just clarified, you said utility 4.2, you mean squad 4.2? You mean?
yes, I'm sorry, squad 4.2. That's a mission. Thank you. I would have been squad 4.2. Let's type wrong here, those guys. Okay. Option 4 is a little bit of a variance on that one. Option 4, abandon the Rescue 4.2 rehab and expedite the Rescue 9 replacement. Stop all work on the ongoing project, cut the losses, as I described previously, run truck 4.2 and 4.27 for station 42 until Rescue 9 is replaced. Carry the rescue equipment on squad 4.2, make that correction there again. Right? Expedite the Rescue 9 replacement. Existing Rescue 9's already had a moderate rehab. Once the new Rescue 9 is in service, move the old Rescue 9 to station 4.2 to run as 4.26 support Rescue 4.2 until theirs comes up in the replacement. Advantage: additional costs limited to the disruption of the existing long-range plan. Disadvantages: Operational aspects of extended time period with one piece of apparatus missing from the fleet. Questionable extended dependability of the existing Rescue 9. And the three, the abandonment of the monies on the Rescue 4-2 rehab that was not completed. Option 5, abandonment of the abandoned Rescue 4-2 rehab, replaced with other suitable used apparatus. And again, stop all work, cut the losses. I'm not going to read the whole sentence again. We already discussed them. Procure a suitable used apparatus that will accommodate the need until at least the anticipated life of the existing Rescue 4-2. This paragraph, this option was written with the availability of, some of you are probably very familiar with the truck. The old what's now currently Rescue 1, Naval Park is on the market. And there was, we could jump on that. It would fit the needs perfectly. Well, they've got an offer on it that they plan on accepting. They have every reason to believe that the people making the offer will have approval of their authority having jurisdiction, the city council to buy it. And they believe that the deal is going to go through. And in addition, the existing Rescue 1 needs at least $10,000 worth of rear end work. The rear end is shot on it. So we could, start tearing that apart. We don't know what else that could be, but they know that, they've identified that. Advantages of option 5, potential rapid replacement. A little more than replacement rails, but with considerably less out of service time. I mean, if we could write a check tomorrow and back in Rescue 1 on Tuesday night, we could start moving equipment over. That's if we're very loose theoretically, but that doesn't seem to be an option. Disadvantages: unknown dependability factor of used apparatus. There's a reason. I'm always reminded whenever somebody looks at a used vehicle is there's a reason somebody's getting rid of it, and sometimes it's just because the floor mat is dirty, but other times it's because they're trying to get rid of it before a problem that's already shown itself a little bit shows itself more. And the other advantage would be the abandonment of the money spent on the Rescue 4-2 plan, the Rescue 4-2 rehab that would not be completed. And option 6, reverse the Rescue 4-2 replacement and Rescue 9 replacement in the long range apparatus plan. Stop all work on the project, cut the losses, suspend ongoing research and developing a specification for replacement Rescue 9, begin immediate development of specification for an engine tanker with light rescue capability to replace Rescue 4-2. Find and acquire the suitable stock or program vehicle to order a new one, and then switch Rescue 4-2 and Rescue 9 replacements in the long range plan. Advantage: not dependent on the reliability of repaired or acquired or used apparatus. Should be a relatively easy specification to develop. There are often demo or program apparatus in this configuration available. Disadvantages: operational aspects of extended period of time with one piece of apparatus missing. Questionable extended dependability of Rescue 9. Abandonment of money spent on Rescue 4-2 rehab that wouldn't be completed. And abandonment of time and effort already spent on Rescue 9 replacement research. This one was written with the thought of all the available good used rigs or program rigs. Steve Hannigan spoke of at the last commissioners meeting is we could do really well with a program rig or with a demo rig. In fact, we found a few demo rigs, but every demo rig we found, actually all the demo rigs we found were at about $1 million plus. We found a few 2024s that are being listed as used. They got low mileage on them, so I think they were also demos, but I have no way of telling that. Chief Wilson had uncovered a few of them. The lowest I think of one of them I think was just under 800,000 that you found. One of the vendors I spoke to sent me a spec that he had hit sent on to Manans about an hour before for a 1,000-gallon tank, 1,500 pump to replace one of theirs that was wrecked in the fire from Sutphen, and that was just over 1 million. It was a little less than 1.1 was 1.03 or 1.04. And that's a program truck that will be available first quarter of 27. That's a stuff that coming off the line. But and as he described it, yeah, I sent it to them, but it's first come, first serve, but not just first come, first serve to you. It's first come, first serve across the nation. So the truck might be going, I can follow up with that whole thing. So those are the 6 options. Now, when you factor in some of the stuff that I'm sure Ryan is going to talk about with what we could do with the long range plan, some of the stuff Sean's going to talk about, sure, with, how do we move money? What are some of our options related to money? Chief Wilson provided the option of a possibility of leasing. I mean, we start factoring in some of these changes. That doesn't change the physical options at all, but it just changes the timeline. It adjusts the timeline and it gives us more flexibility. But I'm not a financial expert and I barely had time to get this done in the 7 days since the last meeting. So I didn't get into all those sub options. So that wraps up the options. Questions, guys? John? Ryan? Not yet?
No questions, no comments, yes.
That's the 6 options.
But just for the 2 chiefs, the other 2 Dans,
Yep.
they've got, Chief Wilson and Chief Sheehan.
Yeah, it's just like going through all that and like you said, the options. And I read through them a few times, and there's just about 3 viable ones that are worth something. And I kind of agree, just the glider kit thing, that's the cost of that. There's a couple people that I spoke to, basically was no way the unique design of that apparatus. You'd spend, like you said, almost a year or 2 just trying to find a frame for that. Vendors aren't doing that anymore, just because of the cost and then the time frame. The biggest one I'm not a big fan of is number 3. They do nothing and just let it go and just kind of ride out what we got.
Neither am I, but again,
Right, I get you. No,
I in there, so you say we don't play ball.
my opinion's my opinion too. So I feel that number 3 is just it's they can scratch that right off the chalkboard. Number 4, abandoning it and expediting the Rescue 9 project. We're still going to be in that framework of number 3, being a rig down for how many more months, years, right? Right now we're already from March till now, so we're 3 months heading into the 4th month, which that project was supposed to be hopefully be done by now. We're just wrapping up to getting to the PM work and sending it back. Like I said, my last report was, 427 is overdue for their inspection. Something happens to the ladder truck. Parts for everything is becoming very scarce for the American LaFrancis. And like I said, I had reservations about dumping another 68 to 100,000 plus into an apparatus that if you get it back, the pump shits the bed or the cab lift system drops out of it, because that's what happened to the last American LaFrancis we sold. And Quaker Springs truck sat in their parking lot for 2 months with the cab raised. That's how they drove it around, because they couldn't put the cab back down. They had to find retro kits for it. Came over to look at ours to try to figure out how to make it work. Reversing the plan. You just, no matter what you do, how you guys decide what you want to do, it's not going to make everybody happy. I understand that. And I hope everybody understands that. If it was Breach had a problem, we have to make sure we're operating the district as a whole and making things work. We've been trying to make it work for the last 3 months because we were kind of on the tail end of this project. But a couple of things that I had mentioned. I'll get my email with me. The original email. But like I said, no matter what you do, you're never making anybody not going to make every personality happy. I did find some used apparatus that thought were pretty feasible. But like you said, one from Brindley Mountain was a 2024 toy rescue pumper, 1,000 gallons of water. And that was listed for $850K. Pretty expensive. I'm not sure where this suction was out of. I think it's going to be Flores, place down south. There's palm trees in it. That was a 2020 with 750 gallons of water on it. It's a southern truck, so it hasn't seen rock salt. It's left Ohio. But seeing about that, possibility of that. Color to me doesn't matter.
What was the price on that one?
It didn't say to call for the price quotation, but honestly, at this point, if we can't extend months or another year or 3 years on running with just an engine and a truck. The truck is basically as is, keeping it afloat, and going that route. Here's a 2023 Pearson Forester I found, low mile, actually 3,000 miles on it. It's 825,000 listed. So, if you're, I know, sorry, we'll go to the program trucks I found here. So Ferrari had a program truck starting at $799. Simple cut and paste type of rig, nothing fancy, cookie cutter. It's red. Like I said, I don't give a shit about the color as long as it's functional and operational for the district as a whole and puts us back in line with everything else. If we do go the used truck route, as long as that still holds in plan for a replacement like it was for Rescue 42 and 33, you know what? What's 5 more years of just having a used truck? The truck can be 10 years old. You still have value in it because Sutphen still can be repaired. Places are still, I don't expect Sutphen to be closing up or Pierce to be closing up anytime soon. Those things you can potentially look at. I know the money thing's going to be a big issue. There's a lot of things going on. The ladder truck thing is still dragging down the road here slowly but surely, I guess. I'm going to call it that. You're already $57,000 up to roughly, and that was budgeted for 80. That gives you 23,000 left over. You scrap the Chiefs car for the year. There's your extra 50,000 there, so you're up to 88,000. And Sean thinks that last month at the commission meeting, he had like 84,000 left over, tagged around that was unmarked. So you do the frame rail thing. That's great, as long as you continue on the path that nothing else, knock on wood, goes wrong with it. And at this point, we don't know what to expect.
I would agree with you on that. We were doing the rehab under the thought that, knock on wood, nothing else goes wrong with it. The belief was that would,
Well, the comment about, they kind of didn't put in the initial quote. Bob and Scott were over there months prior looking at the air tanks when they were getting replaced. They had the truck in the lift. They went through it from bumper to bumper and didn't notice any problems. So did it happen between that 9 months? Possibly. Until you pick the paint off of it, because everything's painted. You can't see under the paint. It's like anything else. You remodel a house, you start to put up walls up, you find mold, bad insulation, mice, bad electrical. It's expected. We were expecting to have replaced frame rails at potentially 68 to 100,000 plus on a truck that's an 07. You're finding parts. They're harder to find. It's a unique design. You can't re-chassis it. And then you're going to keep dumping money into it for the next 5 years. And like I said, pray that nothing else happens. Quaker Springs had to replace a pump impeller, which was, I think, almost 20, 30 grand. Lift kit was 2 months. They said, it's like the ladder truck I mentioned. The control box was since November. The down control for the bucket was just found in Canada. What's next? The motor goes in it, the transmission goes in it, that frame rots out of it, and we get another 3 years until a new truck comes in. Then what do you do then?
motor transmission are the easiest thing, because that's Detroit now. But
You're still talking a good chunk of change
still talking
and downtime.
about the American French proprietary parts.
They're running out. That's the problem. Jeff has told me that conversation several times. The places they were going to all the time are literally running out. When they had to replace the windshield, they had to reuse the gasket, and their fingers are crossed and holding their breath while they put the new one in with soapy water and try to slide that in without breaking the windshield or breaking the gasket.
Avon Parks, La France, for people who understand what's going on there. Avon Parks, La France looks like it's going to a department that has already has two of the same era La France's, with the hope that by owning 3, they'll be able to keep 2 running. One, they will make a decision.
And here's the thing: if the truck was still available, I honestly would be like hard pass, because we know we're going through with our 07s, and there's the same year, same time frame of build, the 06, 07 year. That was the end of the life cycle of American La France, and basically everything was just thrown together. And you're going to go through the same thing. Try another 5 years, and hopefully that frame doesn't rot out, doesn't have any pump problems. And
There's another program truck that's actually in Rensselaer County right now that I know you were aware of, because he mentioned he had talked to you about it. He may be aware of it, but I looked at this, it's an HMA, and it's designed to be a compact truck. I think it's in at 27 or 28
Yeah,
feet.
city rig type thing.
Yeah, it's designed to be a small city type truck. And the compartment space on it is totally inadequate for just an engine. And it also had some kind of not cast, but some kind of foam system on it that I didn't go into
Like a
detail.
solution, like a solution one. Yeah.
Solution.
It's an element. That's what they're going with. Like, if you looked at the stock rigs that Sutton had on our webpage, everything had foam on it for whatever reason.
Yeah, they're putting a foam tank on everything.
It's what it is. You know, long as I put the compressed air foam on. And plus it's 30 years later. But, you know, honestly, I think, you know, in my opinion, and my opinion only, and I'm not speaking for the group here. Honestly, if you're going to go cut this list down from 6 options to 3 to really solidly look at, program truck would be my first choice. The used one would be next, and then reframing it. Because you're just going to be, like you said, we get past this episode of the frame, what's next? And then dump another 100,000 into it. And then something else goes bad with another vehicle. You know, Rescue 9 blows a motor. You know,
Whatever we do, I think this board realizes that we're gonna be in a.
you're losing money no matter what you do.
We're gonna be in an I told you so position.
Mm.
Because when there's not money to do something else, because we went out and bought a new truck, it's I told you so. Something goes wrong because we just did the frame rail replacement, it's an I told you so. So no matter what this board does, it's gonna be an I told you so situation.
But you're the boss, so you make the final decision.
That's.
Like I said, no matter what you do, it's not going to appease the 100 people sitting behind me or the
That's
60
what
people
Paul-
behind me.
Get that.
And Jan.
Yes, I'll echo a lot of what Chief Wilson said. Going down the list, option 1, reframing it. Seems like the most economically viable one, but the note I took when we were talking about on advantages, number 2, potential additional years service life. I put not really next to it. I don't think it'd be appropriate to extend it out any further because we know the problems, right? I think option 1 would be to limp it along until it can get replaced, or until we can look at the long range plan again and see if it can get up a little bit in the 2030s.
Oh, do the frame rails and then limp it. Oh,
What's that?
are you saying do the frame rails and then limp it along, or just put it back together the way it is?
No, do the frame rails and get back, but then trying to get 5 years out of it till the 2030s, right? Hopefully, like Chief Wilson said, we make it there, right? So I don't go on record. I don't think we should extend the life of what it already is in the 2032 or 2033, whatever.
That, you'll be looking at additional 7 years.
Right, so definitely not. Option 2, Chief Wilson said, it sounds expensive and it seems pretty straightforward on paper, but I think in reality, it could be way more complicated than what it looks. So just slap a new chassis on it and send it home. So again, that's delays the process, a lot of money, and you don't know what you're getting into. Option 3, we can't do option 3. Like, we need those, we need the apparatus to town. We can't do option 3. Option 4, right, ban rescue 2, expedite rescue 9. I mean, the rescue 9 committee's only been around since January. I don't know how quickly we can expedite the replacement of that truck, right? This truck 4-2 committee we're going on like 2.5 years, right? So it took a long time to get us where we're, getting comfortable making a decision. So if we ramrod this through, something might give, right? We might forget something, or we might work faster than we can think. Maybe we don't get the right apparatus out of it. And I think I've mentioned before, I mean, Rescue 9 has its issues. We know about the issues for several years for the motor. And Commissioner Cipriani today, what if the engine goes? And that was back in 2018, right? We have it in the shop right now, and they're flushing the coolant system because there's an issue. We're anticipating there's still gonna be metal shards coming out of the coolant when we get it back on Wednesday. Right? We're asking for for sample tubes to be taken, so we have the thought, but I don't think it's fixed itself in the past 8 years, right? So I don't know how when that is. Option 5, I think this one, placed with a suitable used apparatus. It's a viable option, however, what Chief Wilson just went through sounds like a very expensive option. And how much more are we gonna spend in a replacement truck versus a used one? Can we even find a used one? Used apparatus is the hot ticket item these days because across the country, apparatus is so expensive that people are either extending the life like we're trying to do with, 962, rehabbing it, and trying to find used apparatus is hard because as soon as it's on the market, it's like houses. It's up for a week, it's down, someone sells it. Same with program trucks. They're out, first come, first serve, buy the truck, pick it back. So it's a viable option, but are you going to find one that's in the price range and good enough for what we need to do? I don't know. And then buying the new truck, I mean, expensive. I'm sure commissioners and Mr. Carlin are going to talk about money here in a little bit. I can't make a formed comment yet because I don't understand the extent of the finances other than the last long range planning committee, where there's already a little bit of questions up in the next couple of years while we're deficit. So is option 6 a viable option? Possibly if the money's there, but only comment. If money was an issue, yeah, sure. But, so like I said, I don't think myself from what Chief Wilson is saying, so Chief Wilson were that far off with our notes, but my initial thoughts.
I know I talked to a couple of vendors and I know I've been too.
Like, I'm sorry. It's a small range plan, but go ahead.
Well, I just everybody's aware. I talked to Vandermolen, Phil Vandermolen, who's the Sutton rep. And he kind of downplayed any kind of repair or free chassis because he immediately wanted to sell me a fire truck. And he sent me like I said, got those pictures just a minute, a few minutes ago. And the conversation went that way. But he did talk a little bit about even if we could get a chassis, even if he could sell us a chassis, it would take 2 years to get it. And that makes it a non-viable option. I talked to Millertown Garage, which is the local HME rep. They're up in Johnsonville. Those that don't, I've never heard of them. They do a lot of business, but they're a pretty steady business, what they do. And they're the ones that have a demo here in Runter County right now. And he talked about, he thought it would be a little easier to get the cab chassis than what Sutton had said, but then he countered that immediately by saying, but his engineers wouldn't let him do it. Their engineers won't let him do it. EPA and a whole bunch of gobbledygook that I didn't go into any detail because it seemed like a mute point because his engineer wouldn't do it. I talked to the garage foreman, the garage supervisor, general manager, I guess is his title. Never did get his last name, but his first name is Carmine, so you can imagine what his last name is. It probably ends in a vowel. He's the garage manager at Bulldog, which is the KME rep. And he was actually very positive about a rail replacement. I mentioned 2 of the companies that we had the quotes from, said both fine companies, both good companies. We've worked with both, no problems with working with them. And he was upbeat about that. He did ask me to send him some pictures. I sent him the ones that the Assistant Chief Steer took when him and I were there last one time, I don't know, week before last. And Jeff had taken a bunch of pictures. Jeff's here some, so there he is. And I sent him some of your pictures, Jeff, and he thanked me for them, so I know he got them. He did not get back to me in time for tonight's meeting, so I don't have anything there. Last one I talked to is not representing apparatus, I mentioned before. Talked to Joey Champagne over at, he's now with Automotive Solutions. He's a local outfitter. They do a lot of lights, wiring, taking commercial vehicles and turning them into some kind of usable emergency vehicle, chief's cars, police cars, SWAT trucks, those kinds of things. They do a lot of that kind of work. He, obviously I just wanted to get his insight on it. He was the lead person for the company that about must be 10, 12 years ago now, took the old 9.2, took it away for a few months and it came back to Rescue 9. He made he coordinated all the conversions that allowed that project to happen. And as soon as I talked to him about the frame rail, that was the one good bit of news. So they talking about the frame rail. He was the one who said the only company he'd have touched it would be SAB in Fulton. That's the one that we have to quote from. That's one of the ones we have to quote from. They're the only ones that he judged to be competent enough to do it. And not only has he got a career of working on trucks, he's also currently a fire chief, or a fire commissioner in another district. Now he's fire chief in a different district. Anyway, so I included his notes in, so board had notes on the 4 vendors that I talked to.
I had the opportunity to talk to Robert. And he was the guy that the people on the truck committee come up. Whatever, he would be more than willing to help us, even if we weren't buying a truck from him. His viewpoint was American France. There's no parts, there's nothing. You're throwing good money after bad. Didn't see that as a viable option. He wasn't opposed to a re-chassis, but the numbers he was quoting just didn't make sense. And he said he would also, if we were interested, look to see to get us something, a program truck, do something really quick. Spoke with Drew. Have you spoken to Drew lately?
No, like I said, Drew.
Spoke to Drew last week.
Drew is E1.
Yeah, I'm sorry, E1 Premier. He's a salesman for E1. He had mixed emotions on the rebuild. Was up in the air on a re-chassis, but he didn't rule it out. I asked him to try to put together rough numbers plus what Premier would charge us to do the changeover, so we had real numbers in front of us. Okay, he supposed to get back to me today, did I call him twice? And he also said they could try to find a program truck. He didn't give me dates or times or anything else like that. Rosenbauer wanted nothing to do with it. But, you know, they would be willing to sell us a new truck, but everything else they're like, they don't want a new cab chassis. And again, the sales rep we're dealing with said, you may more than likely be spending good money. You're throwing good money away when you try to put money into the trucks. That's kind of bad, like in the rescue truck, put the brake rails and that kind of stuff.
All right, thank you. For those who don't know, we have the long range planning committee. What the committee does is every year we meet, we look at fiscal situation that we're in, equipment apparatus, different things like that. The current replacement plan, get rid of speed right now. In 2029, it's anticipated to replace truck 4-2, paying cash at roughly $2.4 million, but we have budgeted currently for that. 2030, right off of that, year after, we have to replace Rescue 9 at $1.45 million is the estimate right now. Why this matters. Options 2, 3, and 4 to me aren't options, just as a side note. The only financially feasible option currently under the current plan would be option 1. However, this is really a lot going, some questions for Sean after this. The only way we see option 5 and 6 as even being feasible. Right now, there is no cash to do any option 5 or 6. Sean, correct me if I'm wrong at any time, and John, jump into you're on the committee. We know, at least we assume, by the time we get to Rescue 9 in 2030, we will have to either bond it or finance it. We're not going to have another $1.4 million after laying out $2.4 million the year before. It's just not going to happen. It can't happen. We don't have the money for that. So the only way I see option 5 and 6 even remotely working, and again, this is, I don't even know if we can do this. Well, really 2 options. 1, you do it with cash, and truck 4-2 and Rescue 9 get pushed farther down. You won't have money to do the truck or the rescue. To me, there's a reason Rescue 9 was moved up because of the engine. Truck 4-2, we're seeing the issues now with the bottom. We know there's issues with truck 4-2. We know both have to be replaced. So whether or not this is feasible or not, we'll hopefully know soon. We'll watch Sean's reaction. will be a slight delay on truck 4 2. An option to bond it. We bond the truck. Now, the cash we have laid out, which right now we're at 1.3 million roughly in cash reserves. There would be cash feasibly to do used or whatever, option 5 or 6, depending where the board wants to go, and still have cash to replace Rescue 9. But basically right now, with the way the current plan is laid out, only option 1 is financially feasible. And I don't know how much debt, and the reason why it's a question for Sean is how much bond debt the district carry. Currently, the district has 2 bonds down on both stations. Probably about $7 to $8 million left on payments for the 2 stations.
We're at about 70% of the maximum that we can borrow. So we owe just over 7 million. We'll allow up to 10 million, 3% of our assessed value.
And here's another concern, which I know has been brought up by a couple of us. Right now, the last Sourcewell contract, like a better term, put the ladder truck at 225. There's some questions back and forth if that price can increase. I mean, the last sheet I got said it could. So
Do you mind if I address?
yeah, I'll try to use my trade.
No, I'm sorry. That was a previous contract that they sent us that has been removed. The number is like 2.2.
If we bond for say 2.2, there is not cash if it goes over. Because that cash will be allotted for the Rescue 4.2 engine replacement and the Rescue 9. That's the only way options 5 and 6 be work. 2, 3, and 4 are not options at all. Because you keep, to me, even I'm a little hesitant just because of the lack of America and France partisan. But even reversing the 2, like Rescue 9, Rescue 4.2, that still puts Rescue 4.2 at 2030. Year-wise, that's 4 years. That's not going to last. You got to do some kind of work to it. Do you make it drivable? Or you gotta replace it. But unfortunately, with the debt, it's a matter of, and the reason why that would be delayed is we would have to do a public vote to bond for the ladder truck. It's not like we can just make a decision up here and wave a wand.
Even police, all considered dead, so we have to go out to the public to vote on.
So that would be a vote, and yes, we could have a special election, stuff like that. And depending on how things go, don't know how much would be actually fun, we can actually bond. There had to be some cutbacks and some other things, maybe the jib has to come out. Maybe you have to look at a stock ladder truck. But right now, the priority is keeping 3 pieces of both stations. That's reality. And that's our obligation, is to make sure that there's fire protection in the town. I mean, I think the commissioner once told me when I was on the other side of the table, my kid may want a PlayStation, but you're not getting a PlayStation. Well, he said it in much more terse terms, but he was no F-bombs in there. But so I guess that's something the board has to consider. We're looking at options 5 or 6. We got to consider bonding the truck. That's the only way you can financially do it.
Jim Hannigan made a point at the meeting last week about program trucks. And that's one that's really been rested in my head during this week as we look at all this. Because there are program trucks, there are program apparatus, whether we're talking about the truck or the engine, program apparatus out there available. There are, from what I was able to see, there are program ladders out there and some slightly used ladders that are out there, like the engines that Keith Wilson showed us, that would fit the building without modifying the building. So that frees up another X number of dollars. About $50,000.
That one will come back.
That would come back, that would bite us somewhere down the road. Long after you and I are probably.
Oh, no, I'm just saying we can't use, some people understand we can't use that one. We got everything else, right? You only go and pay the debt now, right?
Yes. And the other advantage, if we did option 5 or 6, would be in 2033, we have, which is sadly where we're looking at, that's low number, 1.4 million, it's being pushed out farther. 15, 20 years if we got something new. Maybe get a 2020, 22, 23, you're not going to replace that until 2040s.
Even if that doesn't restate,
Right, still the same amount of money, but just kind of.
The less lower cost, use that savings to supplement.
What we're doing with the engine,
Rescue.
replace Rescue 4.2. Yeah, that's a possibility. The other thing that crossed my mind too is that if we were to find a new or gently used program truck that would fit our needs for replacing Rescue 4.2 in the apparatus plan as it's written, then that truck, that engine would not have to be replaced in 2033. Because we're buying a truck that's got a 20 to 25 year life expectancy. Why wouldn't we run it out for 25 years? Get our money. So that backs us off of having to, turn around right after Rescue 9 and buy another replacement. So, I mean, there are options here. And this is where I was going when I said, when you factor in the financial stuff onto all the physical options, the options become endless, so.
Well, within reason, because the other thing that, it's easy to say we can bond it. But every year we're going to have $100,000+ payment.
Right, I mean, that's
Gotta
gotta
get
take
rid of
away some future expenditures, because currently for. What is it, $3.4 million for the WFD, and we're spending $230,000 a year on the bond for the next 20 years. This is apparatus, we can't bond it for 20 years, I think we can go 10 years, so we gotta double that. Somebody's gonna have $500,000 bond payment for these, that's two. So we'd have to double that if we're gonna borrow 3 million, so it's gonna be expensive, because we don't gotta pay it off 10 years. So that's another conundrum with bonding. Or leasing it, either one, it's not 20 years, we can borrow it for it, it's a shorter term.
Yeah, lease is only good for, 3 to 12 years is the max. But you only have one fixed payment every month, every year.
Oh, yeah,
Which,
but I'm just saying that in our long range plan, we were planning on putting money in capital reserve, some of that's gonna come out to pay for the lease, but.
We just had to find the short-term savings, so we call out to where we actually anticipated debt.
I mean, the thing that seems like it'll put us right back to where we were 4 months ago is just replacing the rails. We have money to replace the rails. Long-term planning will still continue. You can still buy his truck. I know you're saying you're spending good money on repair, but
No,
that's what I'm saying. But that's maybe, you don't know what's gonna break. It might not, you said, oh, we might have another $100,000 repair. You don't know that. We would have had that no matter what. If we didn't if we didn't have this problem, we'd still be facing those potential repairs. I mean, I wish I could turn water into wine because I'd be a hell of a lot, but we only have so much money, and we can afford to pay for the repair. I think just with the money that's left over from last year and the money that's in the general fund, I don't think we'd have to tap into the reserve repairs. Just seems like the more logical. I know it's the risky bet because again, we could have a repair, but that could happen anyhow.
So in that vein, historically, right now they're talking rails. Looking at the truck, there's other things that will have to be done, but well, what we originally looked at, the rear axle needs some work done to it, springs potentially. And I'm not opposed to any of that. Would there, if that went from $70,000 to $120,000? Because there's gonna be extra.
Well, if that happened, then we could dip into the capital.
Okay, I'm just.
We have 87,000 left over from last year. So we have,
No,
wells to play with.
Yeah, but historically, whenever you do something like this,
Yeah, they're gonna find
there's
it.
always something else like.
But even if you put it on another chassis, they might find something.
Oh, yeah, they definitely,
And that pump is gonna be 25 years old, so we put it on a new chassis. Well, we have an old pump, so we're gonna have to replace that potentially.
I don't even know they make it.
Right.
You can talk to,
Mike Soul.
Pardon?
Mike Soul.
you talk to Mike Soul. Is the quote for him to just put in 2 frame rails? Or is for him, the quote for him to put in 2 frame rails and that's a drivable car?
Yes and no. I guess the yes is, yes, it's gonna be a drivable truck. We understand that the front springs need to be replaced. That's something that Premier does themselves. Probably looking at an additional $3,000 for that. Mr. Soul said that the reason why the rear is cocked, and he believes, because this is his business, and I'm happy to hear your investigation, that he's probably the best in the capital business. From what we understand, my impression from him was that that's all due to the shifting of the frame right now. That he feels that once the new frames are set, that axle is gonna straighten out.
Well, it's not so much that, but when you looked at the axle, the saddles where the springs set on top of the axle are lower, they've actually set over rusty. So at the very least, it's gotta come up, it's not the end of the world, maybe it's $3,000-4,000, you know, something. But yeah, I'm looking at it with it.
The good thing with that is if decided to go with option one, is you got probably the best company to do the frame rails. And you got Premier that does all their own spring work, so it's not like you're sending out to Watkins Springs, which we've traditionally done. They do all that right at Premier. So you're right, you're in the best position that if you have some issues.
You got
Talking
the
about.
one with the shortest turnaround time?
Yes.
Talk about the apparatus.
And I know I said before, I think Premier has some culpability here. We haven't discussed with them yet, but I think we could probably leverage that. That's something we got going. So if there was, you know, an extra thing that had to be done or two, that, you know, as long as it was gonna be done by their shop and not the. I never remember what it's exactly. Then
The only other point that he made, Mr. Soul made, is that he felt it was that 4-foot stretch. He's seen this many times. The only thing he can't say, because he can't see it, is the cross members where the tank is. It's like, can't tell you what's there. Can't tell you if there's gonna need to be a little bit of work done there. And I wouldn't even speculate to say it's gonna be perfect or it's not.
on the aluminum part, on the body.
No, and the cross members in between the frame rail.
You really can't see the top of it very
Would
well.
they be replaced with the frame range?
No.
No.
Just get
Right, so that's the only other thing that he says, that small section right there, they don't know until they get it apart.
Just one other thing. I forget we're gonna be voting on a bond for the new ambulance for $6 million. So I think it's gonna be tough for us to go out, if we wanted to bond it, go out and say, hey, we want 3 million, they want 6 million. Just think it'd be a hard thing to overcome this year to do both.
But Sean, I'm just gonna dump this down. We basically wanna, for a ladder truck, go look for Rescue 9. Used cars. Into bonding. Decision is kind of made for us.
Financially wise.
Right.
I did play around, like, I thought I heard $300,000 to it, but it. Yeah, but chassis, I think.
That's just.
I was
That was
just.
that was just to get it delivered.
Well, okay, yeah, so I threw that like into the long range plan. If we could do that this year. And, but we'd have to push the aerial out 2 years. Right, and that's it. We want to do that.
Yeah.
So I don't think we, you know.
That'd be a kick in the face of everybody who worked the last 2.5 years.
Right,
You've got 4
exactly.
years.
Oh, I
For
agree.
having chassis on a
So
truck.
I was just trying to like
Yeah.
shift things around and.
Plus, but also.
Yeah, and I
So look
did,
at the 3 to 5% every year.
I put 4% in each year.
Every year.
Up for 2 years, so I did do that. And we would be okay to do that, but then we would be really short when it came to rescue 9. So. Yeah, I think we'll get rescue 9.
Nominate.
No, I think, I think all of the discussion really comes down to very crucial conversation, because there's a lot of feelings in regards to this, and we have to boil it down to the facts. And that is the toughest part with all of this. I had the opportunity to talk to Jeff from Premier at the chief show for a little bit. And their suggestion was replacing the frame rails, but still moving forward with a truck replacement. It's gonna buy us time. That's all it's gonna do, but I think we keep talking about, well, we're gonna move this one out, we're gonna move this one out, we're gonna move this one out. We're getting apparatus, 20 years, we're going past 20 years, we're starting to see more and more problems.
after 20 years. We've gotta, like, I think at a certain point, try to kick ourselves back out so that when that apparatus is coming up on 17, 18 years, we're starting to plan out because it's taken 2 to 3+ years to get this apparatus in. So we're just, you can't kick the can down the road anymore.
Sense I'm getting. That. Basically, option one is really. It's realistic, it may not be the option we want, but.
And to maintain our long range plan for apparatus replacement, that's the most logical. I'm sorry to interrupt you, Dan.
No, I mean, that's. On the same page, is that I reading the board right?
I told you in the beginning that I wasn't gonna voice my opinion on it until after I was on scroll.
Yeah.
I came into the room tonight thinking that 1 to 5 were the only two real alternatives. And, 5 is sounding like it's less of a, now that I've heard the financial end of it, 5 is sounding like it's less of a possibility. 5, really 1 keeps the plan, the apparatus replacement plan, the long range plan as intact as we possibly can.
Obviously, I see that.
Okay.
Any other?
No, we have another pending issue that we have as it pertains to the truck company is. I think I gave you, kind of in a window where we have to be. Have to. Feel comfortable what we're doing to do it, because if not, we're probably gonna see a 3 to 5% increase.
It's not public section, but I appreciate so many people coming out tonight. I did see a couple of hands, so I will give the opportunity. If anybody had a question, unless Jay's hand first.
Hi. Right. That's right. I know you answered one of them, John. The question was about, once they look at the truck, if we do the frame rail replacement. And they, and again, it's an estimate, I get it, they're guessing like we would we get our 5 to 7 years out for the replacement concept? And I'm hearing that's yes. They think the truck would last us if we do the frame replacement. Would last us until our regular replacement year.
So that's kind of what Premier indicated at the show.
And I get it.
It's, yeah, just not drag it out longer. It's basically buying time.
Okay. And then my other question was, and I apologize if you mentioned that, was there an estimate from Premier for the removal and reattachment of the body?
No, don't they?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
The price of the
You
reframe
guys get a
chassis.
price for Premier to remove the body and then reinstall it after the frame rails are completed?
They do it all at the frame shop. They
Okay,
take it out there, they lift the body, they lower the stuff under it, slide the frame rails out, slide the new frame rails in, and then, they build it from the bottom up, put it back together.
that's included in the frame rail replacement.
That's all part of that, $68,000 quote.
And I, you're talking about this one, but I'm sure the board is probably bigger, because we know once they do something, they're gonna say, you might wanna replace this cable because it's underneath the body and stuff. And I'm sure the board, is financially prepared to do some additional costs, but nothing crazy. And then the last thing I got is you guys mentioned program trucks quite a bit tonight. I think that's a valuable idea to look at, and I'm even look at it probably for the Rescue 9 replacement or any other future replacements down the road. It's getting to the point where we can't find the fancy trucks anymore, dollar wise, we all see that, because that's what across the country. And I know you guys talked about this with mental compensation. Some departments are looking at the idea that use apparatus again, or decent use apparatus, because they're trying to save that money to be able to pay firefighters and having trucks, so we can't put the guys in the trucks. So I think that was something that they mentioned at the meeting we had, where one department, instead of buying an $800 or $1 million truck, they bought a $500,000 truck. They took the rest of that money and utilized the data part. And I know the board's been talking about that through its financial variables. Thank you.
Dave?
I've listened to a lot of the discussion. I think we pushed the trucks out long enough and too far. I think staying online with our plan on replacements for all the apparatus not just Waynesville or DePriestville, but all of them. We tend to always glue stuff together and stretch it out as far as we possibly can. And then we get bit with the repair, from chief's cars to apparatus. We can't stretch these out any longer. So we either need to finance or find a way of changing the tax rate. I didn't hear anything talk about the tax rate change. I know we're looking at a tax rate upgrade by 28 or something. Why aren't we doing that now, looking at that now?
The Brian, the comment that has been discussed at the long range planning committee.
I think that's, you have to start banking money for the replacement. I know it's great to pay cash. I mean, we've done it for 50 years, Jim. I'm paying cash for our truck, so we don't have to finance. But I think you also have to start looking at what the rates are. And I think you also have to look at, by pushing stuff out, we're just gonna increase ourselves right out of price range. We're not gaining any ground here by pushing equipment out. The Rescue 9 plan, what you guys think is today is not gonna be what you're gonna pay. Or a truck company. I mean, we've already delayed the truck company. And I'm sure there's a big dollar ticket number that's already fluxed for that because of delaying the purchase. You know, you can't keep pushing stuff out. You've got to grab onto it. And I can't specify enough on long term. We need to look at purchasing stuff that we're gonna get our 20 years out of. We can't get rid of stuff at 15 years. We can't get rid of stuff because of whatever reasons. We've got to make the stuff last for the right amount of time. If it's a different way of maintaining them, washing them, maybe washing underneath the trucks differently. Somehow we have to be smart in the way we do business with this. There's too much money involved. And eventually, I mean, in here, it's all firemen. Eventually, the taxpayers are gonna start wondering what's going on.
So I'm gonna turn over to Brian to answer your question about the tax rate, but I want to compliment the long range planning committee. I think if it wasn't for this work, we wouldn't be in the situation we are right now and be able to make a educated decision. And a lot of what you said, we've already addressed. So go ahead.
Yeah, just for those who may not be familiar, previous year, we went over the 2% tax cap. I think it was almost a 6% tax increase we the taxpayers with. Currently, the taxpayers will be facing a 9% tax increase coming in 2027. That's almost a 10% increase in taxes. We are addressing that. We've been addressing that. That's 15% in the last 3 years, basically tax increases. So we are taking into consideration. Reason why 5 and 6 aren't really a real option, I would say right now, is because we are sticking to the plan. Current plan is truck 42 in 2029, rescue 9 in 2030, 9-6 2032, rescue 42 2033. If something really starts to happen with our rescue 42, we can always back swap that with 9-6. I think 6 is in much better shape thanks to the maintenance crew that they've done a good job taking care of it. I love Fairbone's truck there too. So, but we have been doing that. We are looking at that tax increase, but there's only so much you can do. We're hurt by several things in the town. The town valuation is not going up, even though we were promised year to year due to growth. We're going to get all this extra money from all this development. We actually lose money some years, even when our tax increases indicated. So we are trying to actually address the tax increase, but we're looking at almost a 10% tax increase, which was supposed to be 28, moving that back one more year to 27 now instead to help fund truck 42, because truck 42 came in almost $300,000 over what we were told in the fall it was going to cost, because we didn't go with a program stock truck. We went with the custom stuff with the jib and all this other fancy stuff on it. We went with a program truck was probably about 1.9 million instead of 2.25.
And Dave, as you sat on the board, we have always raised the tax rate. But we are handcuffed by the New York State 2% tax cap. Now, luckily, the board can override that. But I every year have to file a report with the state controller's office. And it says, did you go over that? And if I say yes, they send me an email. I got to tell them why we went over it. I got to give them invoices and explain why we went over it. So they keep an eye on that stuff.
And going over it to build a capital reserve fund is generally not something that the controller's office is gonna mark favorably.
So we have every year. Forever. Since we merged, we lowered the rates. We held them for a few years, but then we started escalating, but within the 2% cap, and a couple years ago.
We tried to go back to back.
Yeah. It's just the other thing is everything's so damn expensive. When I first started, you could buy an SCBA pack for $400. Now it's a $6,000. Just $8,000. It's just, everything is so expensive. Crazy.
I guess my only point was that no matter what we do, if we keep pushing them down the road, what we think we're saving or delaying is going to come back on the increase of prices.
That's why we're not doing that.
Yeah.
All right, any other? Shane,
Just a couple things. Obviously, we probably don't want to, everybody doesn't understand it, but the board is basically in financial crisis, close to it. I mean, we don't have money to throw away. We got to understand that. So I mean, people are living in a dream world. If you think we're going to buy a $1 million piece of apparatus next week, all right? We're close to being limited on bond. What is that? What's that tell everybody here? We are in financial straight right now. So when was the last time we raised taxes before this last one that we did? What year was it?
every year we've done it.
Every year we raised it.
It was up to the 2% limit?
Right, no, 2 years ago we went.
We went over last-
You mean over the 2% limit?
No, the 2% limit. Because I know when I was doing the strategic plan and I was chief, like we hadn't raised taxes in a few years. And when we saw that in 2030, it was going to go, we were still in the red and we were moving through red into the 2030s. That's when we were like, we need to raise it. So what was the last year we raised taxes before? I want to say 23 or 24.
I think it was 2 years ago,
Yeah, that's when we raised and we had that,
the bigger,
when we saw we were
yeah.
not good.
Correct. Yeah, we went from, hold on, I got it right here. Went from $4.75 to $5.25 when we went from 24 to 25.
Yeah, so I mean, I don't think we've kept up. If you look at the tax rates for the other districts around us, I mean.
But you gotta look at the equalization rate.
Correct. We understand all that, but like we are, it's the only district I know that's close to us that's our size and has a budget like us. That are in financial dire straits right now. I mean, everybody's buying cash. Oh, we're gonna buy that. We're gonna buy that. So the point of the matter is like the only reasonable fiscal thing to do is to plateau or is to get the new rails. It's done in the industry all the time. You're gonna run into some overcost. Rich should go to Premier, somebody should go to Premier and say, look at, what are you guys doing? You do the PM. It should be needle pointing stuff. It should be poking all those frames. If it's not on the PM sheet that they do, we gotta make sure it's there. So if it's not on their PM sheet, that's on us. But Premier should be looking at picking up some of that cost, any of those overruns. It's not a hard thing. They do very technical stuff, vacuum trucks, you name it. They do rails and all of those. You can't want it. What if this goes wrong? What if that goes wrong? We could do whatever we want with whatever trucks we have out there right now. You never know. You got to look at what's fiscally responsible right now. Obviously, it's the only thing we can do that's fiscally responsible. What is our bond rating going to be? I know the town's in a good bond rating. I mean, we are at our limits. We are basically at our limits. We need to really think about, we're not back 20 years ago, we're not back 10 years ago. We got to really think about, what are we going to do? Can we go out to some of these developers and start getting stuff donated to us? I know that's something we talked about in the past. How do we go about doing that? The other thing is feelings. Got to put everybody's feelings aside. You guys are elected to make hard decisions. You guys make really easy decisions. Easy. You do that every day. It's the hard decisions that you guys got to sometimes go, okay, I got to make a decision. It's not what Wanasko wants, not what the Freesville wants. It's what the district needs. You guys got to make the decisions. If you don't think the truck company is what we want, what we need, if it's not feasible for the district, you guys got to say no. If it's not the rescue company that we're looking at, or if it's not the next engine, you guys got to say no. It's all on you guys to make that decision. I mean, we just did what did you say it was? $3 million rehab over Wanasko?
3.4.
Okay. If we did that when we wanted to in 2016, we'd be at about $750,000. But we pushed that along, we pushed it along because nobody could agree on what needed to be done. Now it's $3 point something million we had to bond out. We just gotta like, put all your, oh, this is for us, this is for you, put it all aside. Gotta do it. We're here for one reason. We're not here for, it's not it's not Chief Wilson, it's not Chief Sheehan. Put it all aside.
He's gonna interrupt for 1 second. Terry just texted me. He's in the Zoom waiting room.
Oh,
He finishes other, go ahead.
I'll be over quick. It's not about us. We've been working together for the last 10 years. We've been really close working together. Some of the things that went on in the last commissioners meeting didn't set well with people. Person right there. We try not to do that. We tried to always like fight our pride, not do anything silly. We need to just work together and figure it out. And you guys got to make those tough decisions. If it's not a truck company that we can afford, say it's not a truck company we can afford. Put whatever you want in the station. It's not a rescue company, whatever it is. It's your decision to make. You cannot put feelings in front of what the taxpayers are paying the taxes. You guys are elected to represent the taxpayers. We would be better, and I've said it millions of times, with 5 people on that board that don't know nothing about fire service. They would make the correct decisions every single time. Still, hopefully we can make the right decisions going forward. I mean, look at cutting back on stuff. So tighten the belts, because when we start raising the taxes, I'm telling you right now, taxpayers are going to come down. So I'm cutting back. There's little things we can do to make it look like we're cutting back. That's my 2 cents.
Eric.
Just. Is there anything on with bond rates are anything? Any benefit to either?
Our bonds don't have a retirement. They are a serial bond and they are locked out, so you can't.
Latest of the discussed changes, plus that benefit us. I mean, obviously, that's something I don't know behind all of that. Did a program that would still save us costs to have the person. Enough, but cost to add new people versus new people like things. 10 years, this board, we will sit. Evaluation. Ratio wise, developments are moving in town, paying a lot, plus that are older houses. It is what it is. Value, certain odds of having look like great valuation.
As regarding the low SAP thing, I think at your last week, Eric, we did sign a contract you talked about with Firefly. They run a kind of different, they will run a current plan. Sit down with them. We do have a plan. The earliest we can make any changes to low SAP will be June 7. Our meeting basically with them is to discuss our options, what we can do. We are looking to move forward with this. There's some financial juggling, I think, though, because that's sort of us. But in our plans, get that part out here short. Meeting with Firefly. The goal is to have some type of plan in place. They'll start saving the district money as well as benefit. Want to just sprout details, because if you start trying, I've learned my lesson. When you say some ideas out there, it becomes fact and gospel. Next, you know, that people come here with pitchforks. We haven't even made a decision or had a meeting. To avoid that, yes, we plan on doing something for January 1st. just be a firefight in the next month or so.
Action on. Rock base. Or anything that's different.
No. I don't think so. No, looks like what we're headed up.
Terry, can you hear me?
Yeah, but the people that are speaking, it's coming in very choppy. So, I mean, if we're going to have a discussion, people are going to have to be gathered closer to the microphone because it keeps cutting out. I'm getting like every third word from the people that were apparently in the audience speaking.
Yeah, well, basically what I wanted to ask you, was carry on the email with the different options. All right, so basically after a lot of discussion, but we're gonna move forward. We didn't vote yet, I'm about to vote, with option number 1, replacing the frame on rescue or 2. Financially, it's about the only viable option, but it also keeps us on track with our long-range plan. Any comments, concerns that we should take into consideration before we vote?
No, I mean, it's, you know, you haven't got a lot of good options. If that's the one that hurts the least, you know, and that's the board's decision, yeah, nobody can fault you for it. But yeah, I mean, this is a setback, and you got to make the best of a bad situation. So I empathize with you. I mean, of all the options, this is probably the least financially painful. But you know, but legally, you got to do. You know, you're gonna have to do something. So,
Having said that, I'll entertain a resolution that we forward with option number 1. $1 authorized up to
We got it at 68, quote 68.
authorized.
87, so go to 85.
85.
All right, entertain a resolution to proceed with option number 1, not to exceed $85,000.
So close.
Resolution made by Rich, need a second. By Brian, roll call.
Aye.
Rich,
Aye.
Dan,
Aye,
Brian,
John.
Aye.
resolution carries. Bob Miller, and moving forward, just I have asked, chairs. The big projects going on. Where did you kind of do the point for this one? Unfortunate, but apparently the 2 of them contain regular communication, so when we're at these meetings, clear.
We put together a final questions from the bid specs that we received. Sent them to the sales reps. Yeah, they sent them back. Everything was cool. They had no problem with everything we put there. Some of the questions we had are dependent on what we do with the color choices and those kind of things. Decided it has to be decided by them. Some of those things. I'd asked them then to make the changes to the spec and resend them to us. They kind of drew a line on that. They said, "We've done this 4 or 5 times. You know, what you got is what you got. We're going to stand by it." So, I spoke to Bob, and we believe that we have to incorporate that into what we send back to them.
One package together, your and Rich's comments and remarks, Terry's legal end, then we're gonna send it out to them to put it in the specifications as we were told by Mr. Gardner.
You know, the problem we have, they have an impending price increase in July.
Dragging the boat anchor, stop dragging the parachute, right? We've been, on the committee, we've done this.
I believe-
This is a circus.
I believe we,
I want to address that. You may think it's a circus. However, we're spending $2.2 million. Listen to me, and if the
100% understand.
the specification that they've given us doesn't have the right information in it, damned if I'll vote in favor of that. Because the specification is what a lawyer from there is going to hold up and say, what you guys want.
Get that. This has been drug, I mean, I apologize for being, we were discussing types of terms and sizes for months. And now we're talking price increases come 14 days. These things could have been discussed at the point instead of silly things we were, I don't want to, sorry, might mean something to somebody, but the things we were discussing, you know, could have been discussed, handled, and done, and then move forward. But I just, it's a little frustrating at that point.
Really, I did something. Not what's being discussed, but this is a workshop meeting. The Board of Fire Commissioners are not in public session right now. Nobody's to be out of order. There'll be an opportunity for public comment at the end. Speaking because I really don't know what was just said, but this is right now a working meeting of the commissioners. So whoever was speaking, continue.
I believe that we can work through that price increase. I just think that their frustration was coming out just as ours has. So I believe we can work through that. Work with Bob, and he's been working with Harry and Chris, the salesperson. I think we got all our ducks in a row. And I think by the next commissioners meeting, we should have it done.
Gary, you're gonna get that packet to me by midweek, correct?
Correct.
Okay, and then we are sending it off. We're assuming that Rosenbauer is gonna do what they told us 4 weeks ago. And that is incorporate what they can approve into the specifications. If there's a problem, it's gonna come back to the committee, to the board, to the attorney to say they have a problem with what we're asking for. We don't know that yet because it's not through that.
I mean, from what I've talked to them, everything that we've raised has been addressed. I think that they're trying to move the process along also. So they don't want to go back through another revision and then come back and do this. So they have a desire to move this along also. I feel good. I think Rich is, are you satisfied?
As long as they put it in writing, I'm satisfied.
So I firmly believe that by the July meeting, you'll hear that they've accepted our contract or reviewing it, and will avoid any additional cost for what it is because it's now their part, not ours. That's my belief.
Nation is nature called.
No, we're just explaining this, whatever down there, and the sheet that I gave you with the questions and how Bob is going to take and incorporate that with Terry and to send to Rosenbauer. They either got accepted or required.
This, last week, you mentioned that they answered most of our questions, all the questions.
Yeah, they answered them all.
Right, I just want to make sure.
Yeah, some of them were like, give you an example, we put the controller for the arrow stick, and they said it'll be determined at the pre-con meeting. I mean, that's,
Yeah, that kind of stuff I get, you know, I mean, it's, so it's, you know, well, I know comment was made about delays and stuff. It wasn't like, not a lot of information coming to us, all things ready to talk about price increases. Or that's why we said no to Pierce, and, you know, there's a lot of.
Oh, there's none of that, there's none of that.
Right, well, I mean, there's a lot of lack of information. It's been said before that was coming to the rest of the board. So we hear stuff, rumor, hearsay, 3-4 months afterwards, where we had minutes, less than minutes I saw from Chief Little, past Chief Littlefield. I've not seen a set of minutes in 2 years. The apparatus committee. Every apparatus committee I've ever seen, sat on, has binders of information. It's been hearsay, hey, this, that, and everything. So yeah, there's been delay, and I share the frustration. Just did a price increase in January, we're told, now they're talking about no, 6 months later. If that's real, if they're just trying to.
No, that could be a possibility.
But it's just, this is the same salesperson who let out lie to us about the program payments. Oh, if you make your program payments, you'll save $80,000. Well, I never said that. There's 15 people in the room when he said it. So, yeah, there's been some delays and questions, but again, we're not getting all the information. Three out of the 5. So, but we're here, they've answered the questions, and there's no price increase, then I think you can kind of financially afford it. But if they didn't really agree to that, and they kicked back something saying that, put that tariff thing back in there, we can't afford it. We can't risk it.
The tariff thing is definitely.
There's things in there too that I questioned, and they've said, oh, we'll take care of that at the pre-con. I'll give you an example of one, because it's the kind of thing that is somehow in the specification for the area, a enclosed compartment underneath with heaters for the pump was included. Now, I've looked at all the apparatus that the district owns. I'm familiar with much of the apparatus that the district has owned, Greenville has owned for the last 30 years. I don't think we've ever had an enclosed pump with a heater in there. And when I said to them, it's not something we've ever, it's a separate.
The 94 Salisbury had that.
Okay, well, that's the fact that this is a blower and heating coils and everything else. And when we looked at that with the engines, it's a pretty substantial price charge. And when I said, well, we'll credit that to you at the pre-con meeting, that scares me that, what are they going to give us for credit for it? How does that come off the 2.2? So that's the kind of thing that I was looking to get resolved by getting this stuff all into the stuff. It wasn't like I was jerking around or trying to slow the process down, trying to protect our investment.
Yeah, no, it's just like the electric commission, like 6 months, roughly 5 or 6 months. I was asking one simple question in the committee. I couldn't even get an answer. Does the thing turn better than or equal to the current truck? It took 6 months to get an answer from the committee.
Get that from the vendor, and that's
Right, but it's all on us, Frank. He's my point.
that goes right back to the comment that was made about we spent months talking about turning radiuses of tires. Goes right back.
That's not better than it's not. Yes or no? Took 6 months to get that answer from the vendor. 6 months. 6 months ago, this truck was 2.1 to 1.9 million. 6 months ago. Anyway. Weird.
No, I don't think we should. So thank you. For all that. Apparatus wise, anything else?
Not tonight.
All right.
No, I don't think so.
Anything or we're not required to have a public session, but again, I appreciate so many people coming out. Anything for public session.
Did they get a time of arrival on if we ordered those frame rails this week, how long they would come?
They have to order the frame rails at the first week of the beginning of every month, so they would not be able to do that now till July. So they would order the frame rails in July. They would take possession of the apparatus very shortly after that. At least when I spoke to Mr. Soul a week ago, they are ready. When those rails come in, they're ready to start putting the rails in. It's just, this company seems like it's very methodical process of what they do, how they do it. And they understand it's fire apparatus, they understand it's in a rehab, it's already downtime, they want to minimize that downtime, so. But I think now we're gonna push that out at least another, close to 30 days, so we're probably looking toward the end of maybe August.
Can we find out like the time frame? Because if Jeff can still start doing process work on the truck that's sitting there, and there's some oddball things we're trying to work on, the light bar, the back panels, things like that, where they get that stuff done while the truck is waiting for frame rails to be sent out there. Because I don't know how this gentleman out there, when he wants the truck there. So if there's some stuff that can be done with a truck just sitting there collecting dust in the parking lot, and then
Yes.
it gets here back a little bit quicker.
Obviously, to maximize what
Right.
they can do.
Yeah.
Mr. Sol called me and I immediately called Rich. He called me, sometime mid last week. How you guys make it out? I said, board is gonna make a decision very soon, so, he seemed eager to want to move forward. So that's a good thing.
All right.
Yeah, so I've heard a lot of talk, right? I know there's a lot of documents going back still, there's a lot of people who put eyes on stuff from the fire district and the mayor and so on, so. Is there a detailed list of what Rescue 42 needs? to Be back in service, 100%. State inspection passed on a heavy inspection. So that the members of Whitesville Fire Department are comfortable turning it on and driving it down the road in an emergency. Because the frame rail guy's the frame rail guy, the fire apparatus guy's the fire apparatus guy. Is everyone on the same page of all the little knick-knack things? Because somehow we missed a big hole in the frame. Do we have the board confident that we're gonna get a truck back? That we're gonna be confident driving a 80,000 pound vehicle at 40 miles an hour down the road? And we can all say, you're good, Elson. That's my question.
Fair question. I believe we are. The general contractor on the job is Premier. The Premier is the one who guided us to, Souls. And they stand by them. And they, so it's got to come back to Premier afterwards. Premier is going to do the inspection. So that, a lot of that culpability goes back to Premier again to make sure it's inspected properly and that it is a serviceable, safe rig. Could a tire blow? Could we lose a ball joint? We get what if it's a death, as somebody else said earlier. We get what if it's a death. But, as James said, they make these changes all the time. This is not something new to the industry that, oh my God, we're trying frame rail change. The way, I sent to the board of fire commissioners a video of another company that does these, and it was a video that was a YouTube video that they did like 6 or 7 of them. And they just showed how it was done. Nothing quite like a full-size engine. They did a full-size engine tanker, an elliptical tanker. There was other apparatus they were doing. There was a pre-truck in one of the videos. So it's done in the industry.
My point, Rich, is before it comes back and say it's good, is someone gonna go through it with a fine tooth comb to make sure it's good? Because if it's going from one shop to another shop, and back to another shop, and things happen when things move, right? So that when Chief Wilson says it's back in service, he can go to sleep at night knowing that it's in service.
That's Premier's job, but I don't know what we would consider to be the highest authority. Because there's always gonna be somebody there's always gonna be a naysayer that's gonna say, well, I don't trust it. You're always gonna have that naysayer.
I think what you're asking for, Adam, is that, for lack of a better term, somebody signs off on this thing that it's 100%, there's no issues, and it's gone through it from bumper to bumper.
Yeah.
So I think, I'm not trying to speak for the board, but I think I'd be comfortable with Mir because he's putting a New York State inspection sticker on it. And I think it's probably wise for us to say to Jeff, listen, this has been bouncing back and forth, it's been delayed. We want to make sure it's 100%. So we're basically holding you accountable for this truck is in 100% shape before it gets back to us. I think we can have that dialogue with them. Danny, you think that would be good? Rich?
And I not to get off the topic, I did have talked to Jeff the other day, and He's a very mild fellow, if you never even talked to him before, and he's very concerned, you know, he's like, are you guys upset with what happened? You know, we're not the mechanics. You are, you know, you have a process of doing things. If you start from top to bottom, that's how you do things. And you know, explain to me and explain to you guys how that process worked. Was it the scaling and the underbody stuff was going to be done last because of other PM work that need to be done? You know, it wasn't something that they were trying to cover up. It wasn't nothing that they were trying to hide or try to stick it to us at the end. You don't build a business that way, and they're doing good business because every time you go over there, the shop is full of fire trucks. So they're doing something right, like everybody is, with limited people and time constraints, trying to get trucks back as quick as they possibly can. So I know he's willing to be helpful and make sure that truck comes back better than it was. So I kind of have faith in that conversation with them, that the truck will come back better than it was.
Thought I saw you hand over here, Jeff.
Never mind, you've been here long enough.
All right.
Never mind.
Jim Hannigan, good.
Is there, Department of State, what's their taste for the department, they have people who come, inspected, like they do in the school buses?
Believe so. I know the school bus inspections are done through SED. That's coordinated through SED and contract with transportation. I don't know exactly how that works.
They have a guy that comes around.
Yeah.
In the States.
And I can tell you from experience that they're looking at brakes and lights and that kind of stuff. I don't think they're getting down there and tapping the frame.
Because when you're saying per rear, it's gonna be a guy that does the inspection. Spend a lot of money on these phones. That has got a very good point to us. But when we have to call our house, make that turn down to three.
All right, we do have a need for an executive session. Please entertain no executive session to discuss this one. First, made by John, seconded by Rich, all those in favor.
Thank you, folks. Thank you for coming out tonight.